Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sunday Cup of Joe with me, Joe, who goes by the stage name Joe Knows, as you can see here at the yellow bar. I'm making my finger over there, perfect. But this is Joe, going by the name Joe Knows. Welcome, happy Sunday morning. It's around 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Sunday morning over here, and it feels like a real fall morning. It is feeling like football weather, baby, and I love it. Tell you, I had a strange night though. I could not sleep last night well at all. I kept feeling hot. So I had to come downstairs here into the living room, sleep on the couch, put on the air conditioner so my wife wouldn't get cold. And so I put the air conditioner on. Now I'm freezing. I've got a sweater on. Now I can't warm up. So I don't know. Maybe I'm catching a little something here. But anyway, let's dive into our content, everyone. It was yet another great week of NCAA football, and we had our share of upsets. Not so much in the higher ranking teams. There was one big upset, which we'll get into, of course, but a lot of the upsets occurred more with the lower ranked teams. So there were ranked teams that got upset, but it was more in the back end of the rankings. So we're going to get to all that in 1 second. Before we get into our content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that 5-star Apple review because we deserve it. Where you can find the show, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, and Facebook, where we have two pages, which is Toilets to Titles and When a Family Breaks, which is our page that's dedicated to the trading of sports memorabilia. And last but not least, patreon.com/toilets to titles. Go there and you can learn how you can further support the show. Also, we have our new website that launched August 1st, toiletstotitles.com. That's where you're going to find all of our videos, articles, tons of fantasy football and NFL content as well. Check it out. It is a lot of fun. I am so proud of that website. I think it's just absolutely awesome. Following this show, starting at around 10:30 is the Blitz, which is our fantasy football advice program, and that's really get a lot of start sit advice. And it's on following the show starting at around 10:30 a.m. And the hosts are Mike, Alex, and Justin. And you can send your questions through the chat. They will answer any and all questions that you have for looking for advice on fantasy football for this weekend. Send your questions. They will answer every single question. Great program. I love following that program after my show. And let's move on to our NCAA content. Let me get rid of that bar right there. Let's dive right in, guys. Georgia, number one, Georgia took care of business against number 11 Kentucky, 30-13. Um, there are some stats I want to go into on the Georgia side. Nothing really to report from the Kentucky side. Not surprised by this result at all. I was surprised that Kentucky had moved up all the way to number 11. I think we all know that they're not really, and this is nothing against Kentucky. I think we all know they're not really a number 11 program. So Kentucky's going to take, I think, a big hit in the rankings this week. And oh, and by the way, everyone, hopefully you got some coffee here. This is Cup of Joe. Hopefully you have some coffee or tea or whatever you like to drink in the morning. And let's do a sip. Got to keep that whistle wet. But anyway, Georgia, the Bulldogs did take care of business. They're going to keep that number one ranking as they deserve. They did defeat Kentucky. And let's dive into that box score for 1 second because there are two things that I want to call out. First of all, Stetson Bennett, quarterback for Georgia, had another good game, 14 for 20 in his passing, 250 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And on the receiving side, I want to call out Brock Bowers, freshman tight end for Georgia. 5 receptions, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now this guy, you just click on his name here. This guy so far this season, he's a freshman, Brock Bowers, tight end, 6'4", 230 pounds. So far this season, he's got a total of 4 touchdowns. And he's got his receiving line's pretty good so far. He's got, let's see for this. I'm looking for his season stats here. 416 yards receiving. And I'm looking for touchdowns. And it looks like, a total of 4 touchdowns. But this guy had a monster game. And again, he's a freshman, so you want to keep your eye on this guy. He won't be eligible for the draft this year because he's a freshman. But I believe after their sophomore years, they can come out. And so you want to keep your eye on Brock Bowers. What a name, huh? Brock Bowers. That's a great football name. Just like Stetson Bennett is quarterback for the Bulldogs. But so you want to keep your eye on young Brock Bowers. Again, he had 2 touchdowns yesterday. He's got 4 touchdowns in the season, and it looks like he's got so far for this season, he's got 416 receiving yards. So he's having a very nice freshman campaign there. So that's that game. I'm not going to go into the Kentucky side. It's just not, they didn't really nothing to point out over there for Kentucky's performance. Okay, this was the first big upset here. Number 2, Iowa. So my friend John, I've got a friend John out there. Won't use any surnames for anonymity purposes. My friend John is a big Iowa fan. Unfortunately, he's not feeling too good this morning because his Buckeyes got upset big time, 24-7 by Purdue. And I think we all know that Iowa, and this is nothing against Iowa, but they're not really a program worthy of being ranked number 2. And I think I knew that we were going to see that at sometime fairly soon. So I think they're going to take a big drop in the rankings here. Yeah, out of the top 5, maybe as far as 7 this week. I wouldn't be surprised. I think because this wasn't even a close game, 24-7 against Purdue. That's ridiculous. And Purdue, they're not ranked, but they're a good program. They're a good program. They produce quality NFL players, and so I'm not so shocked that they lost, that Iowa lost to Purdue, because like I said, Purdue's got game. They're not ranked, but they got game. But 24-7, that's just pathetic. Let's be honest, that's pathetic. And let's go into that box score because there's some players I wanted to call out here for Purdue. Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback for Purdue, he went 30 for 40, 375 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. And then you had David Bell Jr., wide receiver for Purdue. He put up 240 yards on 11 receptions. And he put up, was it only 1 touchdown? I think it was only 1 touchdown against Iowa. Yeah, so 1 touchdown, but 240 yards on 11 receptions. That's an average of 21.8 yards per reception. So really impressive. David Bell is his name, wide receiver junior. I would assume he's coming out into the draft this year. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. This guy's got nice size. And like I said, Purdue does produce nice wide receivers. They're also known for producing some quarterbacks too, but they do produce some good wide receivers. Perfect example is my man, Rondale Moore, who was a rookie on the Cardinals this year. He's having a very good rookie campaign. And David Bell could be the next big wide receiver coming out of Purdue. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. But again, Iowa, I think they're going to take a big tumble in the national rankings this week. You can't, if you're going to lose to Purdue, who's unranked, you can't lose 24-7. That's really bad. Okay, so number 3, Cincinnati Bearcats, they took care of business. I'd assume they're going to stay at number 3. Geez, I guess they're going to move up to number 2 and take Iowa's place. I assume Cincinnati is going to move up. They defeated University of Central Florida 56-21, and so that's like the definition of taking care of business there. Blowout score against an unranked team. That's what you should do. And Cincinnati, I assume they're going to move up to number 2. Pretty impressive. So let's go into that box score too there. Give me 1 second. Let me find that Cincinnati. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, nothing, really nothing all that sexy on Cincinnati's side except for Jerome Ford, running back. He was the star here. Jerome Ford, running back for Cincinnati, on 20 carries, he put up 189 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that is damn impressive. He's a junior as well. He'll probably be coming out into the draft this year, I assume. And so far this year, I'm looking for his stats year to date. It looks like he's got 709 yards so far, and 709 yards rushing this season and 12 touchdowns. So remember this name, Jerome Ford, 5'11", 220 pounds. That's a big running back. 5'11", 220 pounds, junior from Cincinnati, the Bearcats. Jerome Ford, so far this season, he's got 709 yards and a total of 12 rushing touchdowns. That is really impressive. So that is a name you want to remember there. That's really the only player to call out this game, to be honest with you. Um, Desmond Ridder, quarterback for Cincinnati, only put up 140 yards and 1 passing touchdown. But when you got Jerome Ford running the ball for you, I guess you really don't have to pass it that much anyway. That was really impressive there. So, okay, let's move on to Oklahoma. Talk about taking care of business. Number 4, Oklahoma defeated Texas Christian University 52-31. And we'll go There is a big storyline here with Oklahoma that everyone needs to pay attention to, especially if you're a fan of an NFL team who you think is going to need a quarterback in next year's draft. We need to talk about this a little bit more here. But Oklahoma, actually, don't be surprised. It's probably not going to happen, but don't be surprised if Oklahoma jumps into that number 2 ranking that is now being vacated by Iowa, who lost to Purdue. Don't be surprised if Oklahoma jumps up there because, to be honest, I think they're a better program than Cincinnati. Cincinnati will get that number 2 ranking, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma leapfrogs them into the number 2. But anyway, we want to go into the Oklahoma box score here because let me see something. All right, so Caleb Williams came in. He was the quarterback. He's a rookie, I believe, and he started in this game. And he had a really good game actually. He's a freshman, 6'1", 218 pounds. He had a really nice game. He put up 4 passing touchdowns and 295 yards. Caleb Williams went 18 for 23, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also put up 66. I'm sorry, also put up 66 yards on the ground, running the ball and a rushing touchdown. So Caleb Williams was responsible for 5 touchdowns yesterday. That is really, really impressive. The running back for Oklahoma, Kennedy Brooks, put up 153 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. And and Oklahoma wide receiver Jadon Hasselwood put up 3 touchdowns and 56 yards receiving. But like I said, I mean, the big thing here was that Spencer Rattler, who was a big name, he was the starting quarterback for Oklahoma this season up until I think he was replaced by Caleb Williams in the middle of last week's game. And Spencer Rattler was one of the probably the top quarterback name coming into the 2022 draft. He was up there, at least top 3, and he's been benched, at least for now. The head coach is saying that Lincoln Riley saying that he hasn't really committed to a starter going forward. But Spencer Rattler, who was coming in as like, the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 quarterback coming into this next draft, was benched in the middle of last week's game, and he didn't play this week. Caleb Williams got the start. Caleb Williams looked fantastic, but Spencer Rattler is looking like a quarterback who is, not, if he does enter the draft this upcoming year, I assume he will. He's not looking like a first round worthy pick right now. So might be someone that a team wants to take a chance on in the second round. We'll see how the rest of the season develops. We'll see. We'll see. But right now, Spencer Rattler has taken a huge hit. And like I said, anyone who's a fan of an NFL team who's going to need a quarterback next year in the draft, you might have to cross Spencer Rattler off your list. So that is a really interesting development, and that's definitely going to be monitored by me and by you and by everyone else the rest of this college season going forward. So, but you definitely want to remember the name Caleb Williams. He is a freshman, but man, 5 touchdowns yesterday, something like 295 yards passing, and I think 66 yards on the ground, a total of five touchdowns. Wow, that's really, really impressive. Okay, number 5, Alabama, they're going to move up in the rankings too. They'll move up within, the top 4. They defeated Mississippi State 49-9. They took care of business there. I didn't really check out the box score yesterday, but let me dive into that right now, see what performances we can call out here for Alabama. And I'm not going to dive into the box score. My intention is not to dive into the box score for every single game here. And by the way, this was a week where there were a lot of college teams that did not play this week. Including a lot of the top 10 teams like Penn State, Michigan. To name two of 3 teams, I know Penn State and Michigan. They're ranked like 6th and 8th, I think, respectively, or 7th and 8th, respectively. They didn't play this week, so there weren't nearly as many games this week as there usually are. Also, Coastal Carolina, who's ranked like 16 or 17, they didn't play as well. But I want to get that Alabama box score here because I just want to call out any big performances. Of course, Bryce Young, quarterback, fantastic quarterback for Alabama. He went 20 for 28, 348 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Brian Robinson Jr., excellent running back for Alabama, put up 73 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. John Mechie III, wide receiver for Alabama, put up 1 touchdown and 117 yards receiving. So really, you can look at Mississippi State. The quarterback went 35 for 55. His name is Will Rogers, not the famous comedian from 80 years ago, but Will Rogers, the quarterback. Mississippi State went 35 for 55, 300 passing yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But listen, Mississippi State got completely outclassed here, and they're not ranked either. But in other years, some previous years, not that far ago, it would have been a better fight. Mississippi State was a pretty strong program, but they've dropped quite a bit. They are 3-3, Mississippi State now. It's not horrible, but they do remain unranked, and they got destroyed by Alabama. Alabama's probably going to move up to like maybe number 3 now. I mean, I'm predicting by by the end of the season, the top 4 teams. I think things are settling in place right now, and there are teams who are going to move up. I think the top 4 teams will be contenders for the national championship game at the end of the season. Right now, it's looking like Georgia, who's solidified their number 1 spot in the rankings for right now. Oklahoma, who currently is ranked number 4, but they're going to move up. I think Alabama will definitely be there. You can never count out Alabama. And then the 4th team, you know what? That I think remains to be seen. Maybe it'll be Cincinnati. I'm not a big believer in Cincinnati. Could be Michigan. I'm not a believer in them as well. Could be Michigan State. I think I'm a stronger believer in Michigan State at this point, but I am Michigan. Penn State could be up there too in the discussions, but Penn State would have to prove it to me before I'd say, okay, Penn State's a top 4 team who's going to compete for the national championship game. They'd have to show that me. They'd have to show that to me before I'd actually believe it. But right now, I think at the end of the season, the top 4 teams, at least 3 of the top 4 teams, will be Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama. Who that 4th team is, it's going to be interesting. We'll see as the season progresses. But anyway, moving on to the next game. Number 9, Oregon defeated California 24-17. So they took care of business. I wasn't surprised that this was actually a close game. I wasn't surprised that California gave them a bit of a hard time here. These are rivals here, so those rivalry games can always be, you never know what you're going to get. So, but Oregon held on, and so Oregon should move up maybe a spot, maybe like number 8, because they were at one point they were number 2, I believe, maybe as late as last week. Oregon, I think, was number 2. And so I think they're going to move up after this victory. I think they'll move up to maybe like number 8. I don't think they're going to move up all that much because it was California they beat, who's unranked, but Oregon should move up at least a spot. Okay, Michigan State, what a hot team they are. They keep rolling along. They're going to move up in the rankings here a few spots, maybe like number 9, number 8, maybe as high as number 7. We'll see. They took care of business against Indiana. It was 20-15. So it wasn't exactly a blowout. And unfortunately, in the college games, you do want to see blowouts because points matter in terms of rankings. Like destroying a team, it matters. And they didn't destroy Indiana. It was a close game, a lot closer than it should have been, but they did pull out the win. And they remained undefeated. And so Michigan State probably should. They're going to move up to at least number 9, but maybe as high as number 8 or number 7. We'll see. We'll see. But Michigan State. And my man, Andrew Campy, one of my colleagues here, 12 titles, he's very happy because he's a big MSU fan. So the Spartans are looking really good. I'm rooting for the Spartans. I like to see them. I'm glad to see the Michigan teams they're both having good seasons, both Michigan and Michigan State. I think it's good for college football. I think it's important for college football. And me over here in northeastern New Jersey, I'm surrounded by Penn State and Michigan fans. Seems like everyone's got a flag out that's either Penn State or Michigan. So pretty cool to see. But both Michigan programs are doing really well. I'm a big fan. Well, not a big fan, excuse me, but I am rooting for Michigan State. There's a little place in my heart for this program because I'm a huge Carl Banks fan who played on the Giants in the 1980s and the early 90s. He's probably, he's one of my favorite players and my favorite Giant of all time. He's an alumni of the Michigan State Spartans. So, when Michigan State's doing well, I do pull for them to continue to do well. So that was a cool result there. Okay, number 12, Oklahoma State. Man, this team is shooting up the rankings. Oklahoma State defeated number 25, ranked 25 Texas, 32-24. Really good game here. Let's go into this box score here. Not surprised by the closeness here because again, these are two rivals, and rivalry games, tend to be hard fought games. So no shame in Oklahoma only defeating Texas by 8 points. Oklahoma, You know what? They might make it up to number 10 this week. They might make it up to number 10, Oklahoma State. So, but they've been shooting up the rankings. But I'll tell you, Oklahoma State, they've got an ugly loss in them. Every season, they're known for like some head scratching losses, and I have a feeling we'll definitely see one this year again. So that will take them tumbling down the rankings. But right now, they're doing great. Um, Okay, so Oklahoma on the Oklahoma State side, running back Jalen Warren put up 193 yards on 33 carries. So Jalen Warren, running back for Oklahoma State, 33 carries, 193 yards, no touchdowns, but man, that's a lot of carries and that is a lot of yards. And Jalen Warren, we just check on him. So he's a senior. He'll be coming into the draft this year. And right now, his season totals, I'm just looking for his right now, he's got 705 yards on the season and a total of 6 touchdowns. So he's having a really nice campaign this year. 5'8", 215 pounds. So the guy's not tall. He's not vertical, but he is horizontal. He's 215 pounds. This guy is solid, and he'll be coming to this upcoming draft in 2022. So he is a name that you want to remember here. And I'm trying to check out his receiving stats as well. Receiving. Let's see. 122 yards receiving so far this year. So 705 yards on the ground and 122 yards receiving. So this guy so far has put up a total of 827 all-purpose yards. Well, when I say all-purpose, I mean rushing and receiving. That's really impressive. And no receiving touchdowns, but he does have 6 rushing touchdowns. So this guy's got a little bit of a dual threat action going there. So Jalen Warren, running back for Oklahoma State. Remember that name. And that's really the only player to call out in this game. Bijan Robinson, the Texas running back. He's possibly the best running back right now in college football. He did have 2 touchdowns, 135 yards on 21 carries, and Bijan Robinson. He's a sophomore. I assume he's going to come into the draft this next year. You want to remember this name as well. So far this year, he's got 930 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and he's got 207 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns receiving. So far, Texas running back Bijan Robinson has well over 1,100 yards so far this season. Amazing. That's amazing. And the season's only like half over. And he's got a total of 13 touchdowns, both rushing and receiving combined. Holy cow, this guy's having a monster year. So it looks like he's definitely the best running back coming into next year's draft. Bijan Robinson, you want to remember that name. This guy is a dual threat. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot, 214 pounds. Damn, he's a big boy. Big boy. You want to remember that name. Nothing noteworthy to call out here on the for any of the wide receivers at all. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. Ole Miss, Eli Manning's college team, one of my favorite players of all time. Giants fan, obviously. Eli Manning. He's an Ole Miss alumni. They defeated Tennessee 31-26. Ole Miss is screaming up the rankings themselves, just like Oklahoma State. They're ranked number 13. And let's check out this box score. So Ole Miss has a nice quarterback that you want to keep your eye on, Matt Corral. And let me find that game. Okay, so let's go into the box score here. Matt Corral, pedestrian game actually, 21 for 38, only 231 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I said pedestrian game, I meant pedestrian game passing. Matt Corral also had 30 carries. Holy cow! Matt Corral, quarterback for Ole Miss, had 30 carries for 195 yards. So Matt Corral, quarterback for Ole Miss, put up 231 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He also put up 195 yards on the ground on 30 carries. No touchdowns, but still, those are amazing numbers. So he put up well over 400 yards combined, including 2 touchdowns. Matt Corral, remember that name. He is a junior. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, not a big guy at all. But he is the quarterback for Ole Miss, and this could wind up being the best quarterback coming into this draft. Matt Corral, I'm assuming he's a junior. I'm assuming he's coming into the draft in 2022. But it looks like so far this year, he's having the best season for any of the quarterbacks, at least any of the quarterbacks in the big programs. But he's looking like the man right now. And Dontario Drummond had a nice game. He's wide receiver for Ole Miss. This guy's probably coming into the draft as well. I think he's one of the better wide receivers out there in college football right now. Dontario Drummond. So another name you want to remember. 66 yards and a touchdown on 2 receptions. Only 2 receptions, 66 yards. He is a senior, so he's definitely coming into the draft this year. 6'1", 220 pounds. So you want to I'm just looking at his stats for this year. So far, 526 yards and 6 touchdowns. So having a nice senior campaign by Dontario Drummond, wide receiver for Ole Miss. And really not much to call out by Tennessee. Hendon Hooker, the running back, Tennessee's running back, put up 108 yards, 1 touchdown. So that is nice there. And Tennessee's wide receiver, Velus Jones Jr., put up 93 yards. So not bad as well. Not bad there either. But moving on, Ole Miss took care of business. They should move up in the rankings. I don't think they're going to crack the top 10, but they'll probably move up to maybe 11. But Ole Miss is going up, they're screaming up the rankings, just like Oklahoma State. And over here, we had an upset, man. Arkansas, who came in ranked number 17, they are reeling. They are reeling. Auburn upset number 17 Arkansas 38-23. And I'm surprised. I think I said this last week. I'm surprised that Auburn isn't ranked at least like number 25. I'm sure they will. I'm sure Auburn's going to enter the rankings this week after upsetting Arkansas 38-23. But Arkansas is going to take a nosedive at this point. I think Arkansas got as high as number 9 just a few weeks ago, and now they're down to 17. And yet another upset against Arkansas. Arkansas is reeling. I think they're going to drop to like they might drop out of the rankings. I don't think they will. That might be a little drastic, but don't be surprised if they drop down to like number 23, number 24, number 25 in the rankings. They're going to take a big drop this week. Take a big drop, Arkansas. And Arkansas had gotten off to a really nice start this season. I think they had gotten to 4-0. I think they moved up to like as high up as like the number 9 or number 8 in the rankings, and now they're just reeling. So, okay, moving on. Utah upset number 18 Arizona State this game. This is a late game. It was on in the Pacific, and Utah. It was, I should say, Pacific Standard Time. This game ended late. Last time I saw the score, I think it was 21-21 at the end of the third quarter, I believe, if I recall correctly. And Utah just took over the fourth quarter. The Utes defeated Arizona State. They upset Arizona State. The Utah Utes were ranked fairly high earlier this year, and I thought it was ridiculous. And then they got their butts kicked in 1 or 2 games and took a tumbling out of the rankings. Utah might make it back into the rankings due to this upset victory against Arizona State. Arizona State, I don't think they're going to drop out of the 25, but they're going to take quite a hit here in the rankings. They're going to take quite a hit, Arizona State. So I don't think they're going to tumble out, but just like Arkansas, I think Arizona is going to drop to like 23, 24, 25. And I think Utah will enter the rankings again this upcoming week. And then you had Baylor upset number 19 BYU 38-24. Now, I said at the beginning of this program, there were a lot of upsets this week, but most of them, except for the Iowa game, Iowa was ranked number 2. They were ranked number 2 this week. Iowa was upset. Most of the upsets came against the lower ranked teams like BYU, like Arkansas, like Arizona State. And here was another one. Baylor upset number 19 BYU 38-24. They're going to take a tumbling out of the rankings. And here's another one. LSU unranked. I think LSU's been unranked this entire season, and they upset Florida 49-42. Florida they came in ranked number 20. Man, they were ranked pretty high just a few weeks ago, and they have just been tumbling. And I think Florida might fall out of the rankings this week. They've been reeling. Florida is reeling. And do you know why? Because they no longer have my man, Kadarius Toney, who's with the Giants now, was a rookie with the Giants. So that's why Florida's reeling. They don't have that great playmaker. All right, I'm just kidding. They did lose a lot of star talent in this past draft with Kyle Pitts and their tight end Kyle Pitts, who went to the Falcons. Trask, their quarterback, who went, I think, in the back end of the second round to the Buccaneers, and then wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who went in the first round to my Giants. But Florida, they're reeling right now. So I think they're going to take tumbling out of the rankings. They might fall They might stay in there one more week. They might fall to like 25, but don't be shocked if Florida tumbles out of the rankings this week, and LSU with the upset. So you got number 21, Texas A&M took care of business. They defeated Missouri, 35-14. Texas A&M is going to continue to move up the rankings. They entered the rankings a few weeks ago. Texas A&M, I think, is going to continue to reel off some wins, and they should be ranked in like the top 20. I think Texas A&M is one of the top 20 programs, and they belong there. So they should get a nice injection here in the ratings this upcoming week. Maybe as high as like number 17. We'll see. Number 22, North Carolina State defeated Boston College 33-7. The win here isn't a surprise, but I am surprised that they actually blew out Boston College, who I think was 4-1. And Boston College, they've been unranked, but they're actually pretty. They usually have fight. They usually have game in them. And I was surprised. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that North Carolina State won. I was surprised that they blew out Boston College. But good for you, North Carolina State. You really took care of business. They'll move up quite a bit here in the rankings. And then number 24, San Diego State defeated San Jose State 19-13. San Diego State, I think, entered the rankings last week, and I like that program. They usually produce like, one or two really high caliber NFL players, every few years. They don't produce high end NFL talent every single year like Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. You name a big program. Ohio State. But San Diego State, I'll tell you, every few years they produce a really good player in the NFL. So I'm glad to see they're in the rankings and they're moving up the charts. They're moving up the charts. They're really hot. San Diego State. Again, they took care of business 19-13 against San Jose State. San Diego State were probably, I think they'll move up to like maybe 20 this week, maybe 21, maybe 20. I don't think they're going to crack the top 20, but I think they may get as high as 20 this week. But I'm glad to see they're winning. I really like to see that. So good for you, San Diego State. I am rooting for you. Okay, now we're moving on to the NFL picks. My NFL picks for Week 6 with the point spread and straight up. And I did these picks on my Wednesday night program, and now I've updated them a little bit. I might have made a change or two here based on like who's playing. I know Tua is back. I don't know if that really influenced my thinking in the Miami Jaguars game, which is starting at 9:30 this morning. It's in London, but I did I did update some of my picks. So again, my Week 5 results last week. That is last week. I went 9-6-1 with the spread, and I went 11-5 straight up. My year-to-date results so far with the spread, I'm 48-31-1, and straight up, I'm 53-27. Okay, so you know what? Hang on one second. I got to share a screen so you can see what I'm looking at over here. Share screen, window, boom. Let's do it. So again, these are my results so far. Week 5 results: 9-6-1 with the spread, 11-5 straight up. For the year with the spread, I'm 48-31-1 with the spread, and then straight up, I'm 53-27. So let's move on to my Week 6 projections. The 4 teams that have their bye week are the Falcons, Saints, Jets, and 49ers. So the bye weeks have begun. And if you're a fantasy football guy like I am, it hurts because you got to move your rosters around, and you're going to have like a star player or two sitting, and it just hurts. It's such a headache. But those are the 4 teams that are sitting. Again, the Falcons, Saints, Jets, 49ers, they've got their bye week. Okay, moving on to the first game. Well, Thursday night game, Buccaneers at Eagles. The Bucs were giving 7 points. In that game, I took the Eagles getting the points, and I was right. Because the Eagles lost, I took the Bucs straight up, and but I took the Eagles getting the points, and the Buccaneers won by 6. They didn't win by 7 or more; they won by 6. So I was right. The Buccaneers did win straight up, but the Eagles did cover with getting the points. So I was right on that game there. Dolphins at the Jaguars. I have a hard time with this. Tua is starting. The Dolphins are giving 3 points. I'm going to stick with the Jags getting the points and the Jags straight up. I just have a feeling the Jags are due for their first win here. Miami's reeling, and I hate to say that because Miami is one of my backup teams, but Miami is reeling. Tua is back, and Tua has not had a great season. And he hasn't had a great career so far, but he's still young. I still want to see what Tua can do over the course of an entire season. I will say this though about Tua. that, even though he's not having a great year, the Dolphins did play better when he was starting for them. So as opposed to Jacoby Brissett. So just having him out there, just helps the defense, helps the team, the Dolphins out overall, not just their offense, but the defense as well. I think just, mentally, I think it helps them out. So, but the Dolphins are reeling. I think, Trevor Lawrence is getting better and better every week. Um, James Robinson, running back for Jaguars, is having a really nice season. Chenault is having a pretty good year too. You know what? I got a feeling the Jaguars are going to get their first win in this game. Okay, so I'm going with the Jags getting the points and the Jags straight up. And again, the Dolphins are giving 3 points, and this game is in London, so it's really in a neutral site, but it's considered a home game for the Jaguars. Packers at the Bears. The Packers are giving 6 points. I'm taking the Packers giving the points and the Packers straight up. I don't think this game's going to be that close. Justin Fields really hasn't played all that impressively. I'm not knocking him. He's a rookie, and he's a rookie quarterback. So he's looked okay. I mean, he's looked fine. It's not like he's been like a disaster out there or anything like that. But it's gonna be hard for the Bears to keep up with the Packers offense with the Packers offense. And I'm not Packers defense has been playing pretty well this year, and it's really the Packers defense that has been keeping the Bears in these games. But I don't think they're really going to be able to contain Aaron Rodgers and that offense. So I'm going to take even though it's in Chicago. I don't think Justin Fields is ready to keep pace with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm taking the Packers, even though they're giving 6 points, I'm taking the Packers giving the points and the Packers straight up. The Bengals at the Lions. The Bengals are giving 3.5 points. This is in Detroit. They're giving 3.5 points. The Lions do not have a win yet. They're 0-5. But I'll tell you, they've been a very good 0-5 team. They've been in every single game for the most part. They've played really tough. They've kept these games close. And this game is at home, but the Bengals offense is looking really good right now. So I'm going with the Bengals giving the points and the Bengals straight up. I am on the fence about that one. I'm definitely not on the fence about the Bengals winning. I think they'll win straight up. But I'll tell you, the Lions have been keeping their games pretty close. Melvin, you got to go sit down, buddy. My dog Melvin's looking for attention. But I'm going to stick with my picks here. I'm going to go with the Bengals giving the points, even though the Lions have been keeping their games close. So I'm going to stick with the Bengals giving the points and the Bengals straight up. Okay, Melvin, you got to go. Go, 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 go. Texans at the Colts. Colts are given 10 points. This is in Indianapolis. The Colts are giving 10 points. I'm taking the Colts, giving the points and the Colts straight up. I know Davis Mills had a really good game last week for Houston. I think he had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, maybe 1 interception, but he had a really good game. But I think, the Colts are just not a good team. I think not the Colts. I think the Texans are not a good team. I think the Colts are a pretty good team. They had a devastating loss against the Ravens this past Monday night. Now it was a fantastic game. But I think the Colts are looking better and better every week. Their defense still looks really good. I think Carson Wentz is looking better and better every week. He's really getting in the rhythm of that offense, and I think he's looking good. I'm going to go with the Colts, even though they're giving 10 points. I'm taking the Colts giving the points and the Colts straight up. Melvin, I need you to sit down, buddy. Rams at the Giants. Rams are giving 8 points. Right now, I'm taking the Rams giving the points and the Rams straight up. I don't know what Daniel Jones has been cleared to play, but I don't know if he's been named starter. But even then, they do have some of the key injuries like Galladay sitting out, Barkley's sitting out. I'm not sure if I think Sterling Shepard practiced this on Thursday, but I don't know if he is going to be playing. There's just too many ifs. If everything were normal, if Daniel Jones hadn't been concussed last week, and if he hadn't been concussed last week, and if he had all his wide receivers were healthy, I would pick the Giants to keep not to win, but to keep it as a pretty close game. And while the spread would probably be lower, but there's just too many things up in the air with the Giants right now. So I'm going to go with don't be surprised if this game is closer than you think, meaning that it's going to be like a 10-point game, but even closer than the score indicated. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the Giants actually keep pace for the most part with the Rams in this game. I just got a feeling about it. But I got to stick with the Rams giving 8 points and the Rams straight up. Chiefs at Washington. Chiefs are giving 6.5 points. I'm taking the Chiefs giving the points and the Chiefs straight up. I don't think Washington's defense is going to be able to contain Mahomes, and I don't think they'll be able to contain Mahomes or Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs giving 6.5 points and the Chiefs straight up, even though they're playing in Washington. Vikings at the Panthers. Vikings are giving 2.5 points. I'm taking the Panthers getting the points and the Panthers straight up. They don't. Panthers still don't have Christian McCaffrey, but I think Shabba Hubbard's going to be pretty good for them. The Vikings defense is not looking good. Vikings offense is very potent. They're very potent. But the game's in Carolina. I am surprised that the Vikings are giving 2.5 points in Carolina. So I'm going to take the Panthers getting the points and the Panthers straight up in this game. I think it's a really good matchup, though. I think Vikings Panthers is a really good matchup. Chargers at the Ravens. The Ravens are giving 2.5 points. I'm taking the Chargers with the upset in this. I know the Ravens, and I like the Ravens a lot. Maybe they're one of my backup teams now, too, because I just love the way the Ravens play. I always have. They're a physical team. I love Lamar Jackson. But I love their physicality, their physical brand of football that the Ravens always bring every year, and they're always in it. They're always such a well-coached team. They always restock in every draft with smart draft picks, and they know how to incorporate and grow their draft picks into either being Pro Bowl players or at least very serviceable good players. But you know what? I got a feeling about the Chargers in this game at Baltimore. Again, the Ravens are giving 2.5 points. I'm taking the Chargers, getting the points, and the Chargers straight up to pull the upset here. I think it's going to be a really good game, and this is probably the game of the week. This is probably the game of the week. It's going to be a great game to see. I am going to take the Chargers with the upset. Cardinals at the Browns. This is a tough game for me to call. So it's in Cleveland. Cardinals at Cleveland. The Browns are giving 3.5 points. I'm taking the Cardinals getting the points and the Cardinals straight up to pull the upset. I'm very much on the fence with this because the Cardinals defense, I don't think the Cardinals offense has been as great as like people are kind of making it out to be. I think it's more the Kyler Murray story. It's not like DeAndre Hopkins is having this fantastic year. He is doing a great job. And even Rondale Moore, who I love, it's not like he's putting up huge numbers. Christian Kirk is having a good year, another wide receiver for Arizona. But, every game it seems like there's one of the wide receivers who's stepping up and then who's putting up big numbers. And then the following week, another receiver does. And what does that tell you? Kyler Murray is doing a great job of distributing the ball to his really good playmakers. I love seeing that. But it's really the Kyle Murray story and Kyler Murray story. And I am worried that they're going but the Cardinals defense, and this is an underrated story. The Cardinals defense has looked really, really good this year. And so far, I believe the Cardinals have the highest differential in points. That is that they between the points that the Cardinals have scored and the points that their defense has allowed. I think they've got the highest differential in the NFC, and I think the only team in the entire NFL that has a higher differential between points scored and points allowed are the Bills, who got like it's their point differential is crazy. It's like 115 points or maybe more. So, but Bills are by far number one, but the Cardinals are number two, and they've gone up against some good teams, some good offenses like Seattle, the Rams. So Cardinals they haven't been playing just pushovers. So, but I am worried as to can the Cardinals defense, even though it's played really well this year, can they contain the Browns rushing attack? However, the Browns rushing attack will be without Nick Chubb. And as great as Kareem Hunt is, I still think Chubb is the straw that stirs the drink on that offense for Cleveland. He's not playing today, and which stinks because I have him in at least one, maybe two of my fantasy leagues. I'm in 5 leagues. I've got him in at least one league, maybe two, and that hurts me big time. So he is just a hell of a player, Chubb. And with Nick Chubb sitting and the Browns passing game just not looking great, I am going to stick with the Cardinals getting the points and the Cardinals straight up to pull out the upset. But I am interested to see, the Browns still do have Kareem Hunt going. I'm interested to see how the Cardinals handle that rushing attack. Like I said, it's not nearly as deadly without Nick Chubb, but it's going to be an interesting test for the Cardinals defense. So, but I will go with the Cardinals getting the points and the Cardinals straight up. Raiders at the Broncos. The Broncos the Raiders. So it's Raiders at Broncos. The Broncos are giving 4 points. I'm going to take the Raiders getting the points and the Broncos straight up to win. I think the Broncos will win straight up in this game. It's in Denver. Teddy Bridgewater is playing, and the Raiders, they suffered two losses in a row. And I think their offense is being somewhat exposed in terms of not their quarterback. The Carr is having a great season. It's just that the Raiders really don't have a real alpha wide receiver, and it's hurting them now. It's hurting them. They've got some good wide receiving talent like Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, and a few others, but they don't have that number one guy. They do have Waller, but I think opposing defenses have really focused this year on containing Waller, and they've been doing a good job of it. So they really need Las Vegas needs an alpha number one wide receiver to really help them out. They don't have it, but they're going to need that next year. And but I'll take the Raiders getting the points in Denver. Getting 4 points, but I will take the Broncos straight up to win. Cowboys at the Patriots. So this game is in New England. Cowboys are only laying 3.5 points. I know it's in New England, and you always have to be worried about what defense Belichick is gonna dial up. But the Cowboys are an elite team this year. They're an elite team. Unless the Cowboys get hit with injuries and a few key injuries, the Cowboys aren't going anywhere. I think they're actually I think they're up there with the Buccaneers as the top two teams in the NFC. I think the Cowboys are an elite team. They've got an incredible offense, no weakness in their offense whatsoever. Quarterback, running backs, they have like their own two-headed monster in Zeke and Pollard. Their wide receiving core is fantastic. Their tight ends do a great job. Their offensive line is looking like an impenetrable wall yet again. And their defense is looking good too, Cowboys. The defense is looking good. And I don't think this game's going to be close. So the Cowboys are given 3.5 points in New England. I'm taking Cowboys giving the points and the Cowboys straight up. I don't think this game is even going to be close. I think in this game for New England, you just want to see Mac Jones go out and have a good game. That's what you're kind of rooting for here. Of course, you're rooting for the win, but keep your expectations realistic. I would not expect a win here if you're a Patriots fan, but just root for Mac Jones having another good game because he's looking like a really good rookie. Okay, Seahawks at the Steelers. Steelers are given 5 points. Taking the Steelers, giving the points, and the Steelers straight up. And the big story here is that Russell Wilson is out for a few weeks with some broken fingers, or at least one broken finger. He's out. So they've got, I believe, Geno West as the starting quarterback. Don't be surprised if Geno West has a better game than most people would think. Don't be surprised. But unfortunately, he's going against the Steelers defense, which will make things difficult for any quarterback. So the game's in Pittsburgh. I got to go with the Steelers. Steelers giving the points. I think the Steelers are going to win by more than 5 points. So I'll take the Steelers giving the points and the Steelers straight up. And then we got over here, Bills at Titans. The Bills are giving 5.5 points at Tennessee. I'm taking the Bills giving the points and the Bills straight up. Bills are an elite team, possibly the best team in all of the NFL right now. I'm not necessarily convinced about that, to be honest with you. I think the NFC teams, there are a few NFC teams, in particular the Buccaneers and Dallas, who are both better than Buffalo, in my opinion. But I think the Bills right now are looking, they're showing that they're the best team in the AFC. I think along with the Chargers. Don't discount the Chargers. Don't forget about the Chargers. But the Bills have been dominant since that week one loss to the Steelers. They've been kicking everyone's ass. The Titans are not looking good. The Titans do have A.J. Brown back. Julio Jones may be back. He may be back. You got to check that out. Don't take my word for it. He may be back this week as well. But A.J. Brown is back. They do have Derrick Henry, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Bills are going to – Titans defense really stinks. It really stinks. So I think this game's going to be a bit of a blowout, even though it's in Tennessee. I'm sure Derrick Henry will get his rushing yards and his rushing touchdowns, but I think it's going to be an ugly game. I'm taking the Bills, giving the points, and the Bills straight up. And that is it for my picks for Week 6, everyone. We'll see how it goes. Before I go, let me just go over the schedule here. We have 8 episodes in season right now here at Toilets and Titles. Monday night, we've got the Waiver Wire program, which is for Patreon members only. Tuesday night at 8 p.m., we've got Toilets and Titles, which is our flagship program, talking mostly fantasy football as well as NFL content as well. Wednesday at 9 p.m. is my other show, Joe Knows NFL Review Preview. That's where I review the results from the previous week's games, and I do a preview of the upcoming games. Then following that show, at around 10 o'clock, 10:30 is Dollars to Deuces, which is weekly betting advice. And the hosts of that show are Rich Gonzalez and Nate. So, and I love that show. That's a great program. I always check that out. I always check that out after my show's over. Thursday night at 8 p.m. is a dash of DFS. Saturday at 7:30 p.m. is our Down Under crew. They have Down Under Dynasty. These guys are talking Dynasty football and fantasy football in general as well. So we got three guys. We have our three team members from Down Under who are doing their program at 7:30 p.m. And it's great. You got our team from Australia doing their own program, 7:30 p.m. on Saturday nights. Sunday 8 a.m. or around 8:30 a.m. is the show you're watching right now, Cup of Joe, which is an NCAA recap and an NFL preview of the upcoming Sunday and Monday games. And then following this show again is the Blitz, starting at around 10:30. That show is hosted by Mike, Justin, and Alex. And that is, I have down here, it's a call-in show. Eventually, the plan is to have it as a call-in show, but they give you fantasy advice. A lot of it is sit advice. But if you're a fantasy football person, you got teams, you have questions, send your questions through the chat. They will answer any and all questions that you send in through the chat. That's what they're there for. So that's a great program too, guys. And again, over here are the Twitter handles for me and all my colleagues here at Toilets and Titles. Follow us all. We deserve it. We're a great crew. And every single one of my colleagues, just a great bunch of people to work with. And last but not least, that friendly reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review if you can. We greatly appreciate it. But anyway, everyone, I'm out of here. Enjoy your NFL games today and Monday. And I'm going to catch you Wednesday night with my Wednesday night program, which again is the NFL preview. I'll be reviewing this week's I'll be reviewing this week's games, NFL games, and then previewing next week's games. So that's Wednesday night at around 8 p.m. But anyway, guys, have a great weekend. I'm out of here. Peace.